I'm going to share a little story about one of my clients who, perhaps like many of you, are having difficulties with lust and desire in your life. And unfortunately, the ubiquity of pornography makes that very, very difficult. And you may once upon a time find some of the Reddit forums like Semen Retention, like NoFap, perhaps like one of my videos, or one of my many videos that I speak about on this subject, and proceed to go down this path. Now, this particular client of mine has been working with me for a while, I'd say over a month by now, and he's still having difficulties with my particular methods and ridding himself of this particular degenerate habit. However, in the last 2 weeks, he is finding remarkable success, and I wanted to speak about the paradigm shifting change in which was most tangible in respects to his success. So it's important for me to relay the previous history around his failures first and foremost, and why many of you are considering or still falling back into this insidious cycle. We communicate via Telegram. I keep him accountable to some of the systems that we put in play to mitigate the failures that he may have in respects to getting to where he wants to go, right? And he's messaging me every other day. Joseph, 4 days. Joseph, 6 days. Joseph, I failed, right? And this proceeded for a long period of time after we made various different changes in how he approached preventing himself relapsing. And I said to him 2 weeks ago, I said, the thing is, the things we speak about, the systems we employ, and your attitude towards this is always from a position of chasing. It's always from a point of view that is longing for a different life, right? Here's the trick that you play on yourself when you're constantly in a energy of desire. Because there's two things here. There's the desire for gratification, and there's also the desire to move past gratification and be free from it, right? Vadim Zeland, a quantum physicist, a Russian quantum physicist, I believe a quantum physicist, talks about the mirror principle in respects to reality, that reality is simply a mirror that you're staring into. This is all, as I've spoken about previously, and you should know by now if you're familiar with my content, is this is all Maya, this is all illusion, right? And the Maya only reflects that which you hold in yourself internally. As the Egyptians and the Hermetics would say, as above, so below, so within, so without, right? Meaning, if you're holding on to the emotion of desire, and you're framing yourself from a position of longing, then you will always be the person who is in a perpetual state of wanting, right? You will always be just behind that which you want. Because that's what you affirm to yourself and to your universe, that I'm not worthy. And that is the dialogue, that is the communication, the comms that I was having between me and my previous client, is that he was always in the state of wanting, in the longing of, oh, I'm 4 days clean now, Joseph. Oh, I'm 5 days clean now, Joseph. It's the wrong way to approach these things. I know it can be gratifying, I know it can be motivational to experience these particular milestones. But in the long run, you do yourself a real disservice because you haven't yet found the recipe, the ingredient, the mentality that will serve you in pursuit of making this a lifestyle. Because that's the premise of this video. You need to stop practicing semen retention. I stopped practicing semen retention years ago. It's not something I'm trying to do. It's not something I'm trying to do. It's the way I live my life. I don't try to stop smoking. It's not something I give any mental bandwidth to. I don't try to stop snorting cocaine. It's not something I give a lot of mental attention to. And the reason why you're constantly, this is in James Clear's Atomic Habits, is that here's the way you have to think about it. Is that I wrote something very, very similar in my testosterone book that I'm working on at the moment. Is something to the affinity of this, and you can apply this to our topic today. Is you cannot supplement your way out of a low testosterone lifestyle. It is easier to live a high testosterone lifestyle. You cannot supplement your way out of a lifestyle in which you're being sparse, degenerate, and unfaithful to your sexual energy. It is better to just live a life that is consistent with an individual that respects it, right? So now we're on to really bring you up here. We're on to more interesting topics of conversation. Now we're into, okay, what does a lifestyle look like that's consistent with somebody who has the things that you want, right? And there are different systems that you can use in order to get to the results you want to. I'm not saying that there's one way to do this. I always say play to your strengths. The reason I'm in the position I am now is because I play to my strengths of mindfulness and meditation. And I've made no mistake. I haven't shied away from the fact that that's been the tool that's been most resourceful to me, because I believe it's a foundational tool in everything that you're doing. But back to the point is, what does a life look like for somebody that isn't consistent with the kind of habits that you're doing, that you want to be rid of, right? What is the continuity in the lifestyle that you're not in love with, right? Do you have too much time on your hands? That might be a significant factor. Are you spending a lot of time inside and not outside? I would imagine that's a significant factor. Do you find yourself not socializing or turning down social invitations, or perhaps not making the effort to speak to people in your local gym and in environments where you can be social? That's probably another factor as well, right? Are you trying too hard? Are you trying to live this life of a monk and a celibate, where in fact, you have aspirations to find a good woman in your life and also share sexual pleasure with her? Again, I place no immorality on the fact if you want to experience pleasure with your partner. There are different ways to approach it, of course. There are nuances in that particular relationship, but you might be castrating yourself off being very, very hard on yourself first and foremost when you discover this practice, to the point where you're not giving yourself anticipation of any pleasure in life. Because here's the thing, you hear it all the time: dopamine fasting, dopamine detoxing. It's not the right way to approach things. The thing that you should be striving for is a healthy relationship with dopamine, right? It's not you're trying to fast from pleasure. No, you're trying to manage pleasure. You're going to manage pleasure very, very healthily, right? Dopamine is essential in holistic health and the optimization of your testosterone in your endocrine system. And if you are advocating a lifestyle that doesn't allow for that, you're going to tip over very, very quickly. So it's about, first, before you consider putting in systems and making promises to yourself that perhaps you can't keep, first ask yourself the question: what is a lifestyle that I can live that will allow me fulfillment in all areas that isn't an ascetic? Maybe some of you can live an ascetic lifestyle. Maybe some of you can go to India and live with the sadhus and some of the gurus there. Maybe. What's the kind of lifestyle you want to live? How do you have a healthy relationship with dopamine, right? How do you communicate to your partner? If you want to bring a woman into your life, how you're going to explore both of your sexualities, right? Are you going to practice things like Kareza? Are you going to practice things like Tantra? Are you going to practice maybe traditional ways of having sex by using contraception? These are all things that you have to, that are going to give you greater pause, greater direction, and greater motivation for the things that you're doing. And you'll find that, like my client is finding, you're not placing any energy on doing the things that you don't want to do you're placing more energy on the life that you want to live. Because that's the secret. That's the secret. It's stop placing your energy on the things that are, that are bringing you down, and start placing your attention on this dream life you want to live, fundamentally. Don't affirm to the universe, to yourself, to the cosmos, from a perspective of wanting. Because when you do that, you frame yourself from the perspective of somebody that never has. And if you always are confirming and affirming that, then you'll never have. Focus instead on the having, on the lifestyle that you're having now. And you'll realize that the addictions just drop themselves as a consequence. Something to meditate on. Speak soon.